take us back to both yesterday afternoon with the sheep herding exercise and also to this afternoon's exercise out on the high roads. Because for some people that was, I hazard a guess, a little bit of a stretch at times. Would that be accurate?
Panic zone, all right.
And so maybe for a few people, either stepping into that sheep pen to go and grab a sheep to turn it over, or is that you? Thank you. So we take you found your phone.
Each form has an eyebrow thing.
I love the eyebrow thing.
Oh, the eyebrow advert.
That's 2 words.
Yeah.
Form M1.
So thinking about those 2 exercises and either stepping into that arena to pick your sheep and grab hold of it and some of the emotions that might have brought up, or perhaps a little bit intensified this afternoon in terms of climbing that pole. And I want to think about fear and what is fear and how do we use it, what sort of challenges does it bring us, and what is fear really, what does it mean? So share with me then, or no, first of all share with the person next to you what sort of fears came up if they did. And just spend the next 2 minutes, just, was there anything for you? You just put the music back on quite I can judge by the level of conversation that actually there may have been a few fears that came up today or yesterday. So share with me then, what sort of fears were they? What actually were you afraid of?
Heights.
A fear of heights?
Being yanked off the pole for the leap of faith, being yanked off it instead of jumping.
Falling?
Oh, that's...
Yanking.
You know when Susie was coming up, because Susie was quite scared and it was me, and I was obviously like really nervous at the same time, so I was like worried that if I was like acting nervous or something, it would make Susie feel more scared or something, so I was trying to be like positive while I was slightly having like a freak out at the same time.
Oh, interesting. So you mean you can project your fears onto somebody else?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I was afraid like it would project on her.
Yeah.
It didn't, so it works. Good tactic.
Yeah.
Or could it be that it's
As
not
I said,
only...
we had you.
Could it be that it's not only fear you might be able to project onto somebody else, but are you able to project some other emotions sometimes?
Yeah.
Nice to hear that you can choose which emotions you want to project. There's an interesting distinction.
Yeah,
Having been thinking about choice earlier. So
with
what?
me, all Rashford way.
So that stuff Glenn said, you know, got me thinking.
So what other sorts of things came up as a fear?
It's starting to go in! Yes!
So were there any other fears?
I would love to do that. But not be the first one up.
Yesterday.
Including yesterday.
Oh, the sheep. Like
Hurting the sheep.
Yeah.
Sheep. I just felt like, just think of a sheep as one of your enemies.
Oh, that's not very nice. They're so
Fear of
some of them were a
failure.
bit scary looking, but some of them were cute.
Yeah, one of them looked like
So
a
Matt, tell me,
broken
what were you afraid
Did
of?
you say
Well-
At that point on the polls this afternoon.
I don't know. I was just, it was just me shaking. I just thought the pole was going to go like,
Yeah.
So what were you afraid of? What was the fear?
the pole snapping.
And
That's
what
because I was shaking so much.
So what if the pole snapped?
I'll be screwed.
No, the pole.
Right, you're still on a harness.
No, I forgot about the harness. Everything.
So what
All
was the
Rashford
so what was the
left
fear?
me.
Oh, so fear's not rational sometimes?
Yeah.
It's not right for me.
Interesting.
All Rashford left me. And it got replaced with only.
So what other things?
It's not a physical thing, so I wasn't afraid of the rope breaking or anything like that. It was more irrational fears, like fear of not being able to do it, and therefore
Fear of failure.
not wanting to try.
That's what
Yeah.
drove me, like when I needed to think back, I was like, I'm going to swear now, but like, if
Yeah,
I missed
sorry,
it,
sorry,
I
if
missed
I-
it, I was going to like prick, wasn't I? Let's be honest, like, leaving it back.
I missed it twice.
Right,
So fear of failure. What fear, was that?
I didn't know.
failure
I
as
didn't
well?
know that after I saw like Siobhan kind of like going like this like 50 million times. Didn't bother me about falling off.
Was there another hand up over here somewhere? No?
I was, but I can't
Yes.
remember what I was going to say.
Very kind.
Sorry.
So thinking about all those things that maybe you were afraid of, did any of them actually play out in the way that you were thinking they might?
No, they all-
Yes.
You talked about them being irrational, because that's what fear is sometimes, isn't it? And somebody once said to me something that I found very interesting in terms of fear, and I find it's something that now I find very helpful when I find a fear coming up, because we're all afraid of things. We're afraid of being rejected, we're afraid of failure, we're afraid of not being good enough. Sometimes we're fearful of not being loved. And they're very common fears, but when you feel them, they're very real to you, and yet there isn't really any evidence for them, is there? Was there any evidence for it outside? Did it actually, is that what played out? And yet you go through this whole kind of, you get the thought, the fear comes up, and then you've talked yourself out of it before you've begun.
No,
Because you've played the whole scene in your mind, haven't you? But actually,
when the fear starts. When the fear starts for me is when I got actually on top. Climb
I
part's
didn't
easy.
mind climbing that.
Climbing was easy, Carl. Even I was looking down as I was climbing, but got to the top, I go, why is it shaking so much? It's
and
not
the
real.
fact was, it wasn't real when you got there. So
Well, I
it's
just
not
looked at a
really
tree, then
false.
started looking at the countryside.
It was like unnatural.
Yeah, and there was no evidence for it because you talked yourself into it. You hadn't even happened yet, had it? So you gave yourself some evidence to base that fear on, and yet that evidence wasn't real, but it appeared real. Yeah.
Appearance.
Close.
So that's all false evidence. That's all fear is. It's just false evidence that appears real. So next time you catch yourself being afraid of something, ask yourself that question: what's the real evidence for it, or am I just creating it before it's even ever happened?
The only problem is.
To catch yourself and recreate it in a much more positive.